What is up, everybody? Brian Mendler back in your life on another edition of the podcast. And today I am joined by my friend Gina up in Connecticut. And I want to just start by asking you, so you're obviously huge into classroom management and behavior and discipline like I am. What got you into that? What made you want to focus on that?
Yeah, so about my fourth year of teaching, I had like my toughest class so far. So before then, I thought like, oh, I was pretty good at this classroom management stuff. But I had this trio of kids, and they just gave me a run for my money. They would elope, they would hit each other, hit me, destroy the classroom, have like huge meltdowns. It was really uncontrollable. And I didn't know what to do. I just felt like I was failing, right? So I one day just like hid in the closet when my kids went to recess, and I had a complete meltdown. And one of my friends found me there, and she was like, "What's going on?" So I told her, and she's like, "There's no magic wand for behavior." And she said, "The cavalry's not coming. No, you're not going to get any more support. In kindergarten, the big thing is like they need time." So she's like, "No one's going to come. You need to figure this out, and you can do it." So I pretty much took that and I ran with it. And I listened to every podcast, read every book, went to all the PD, and just really learned whatever I could about behavior management. And we wound up having a great year. I was able
Nice.
to change all of those behaviors. And so now I take everything that I learned and I put it to action every single year. And I help teachers in my school, teachers online, just figure out really how to change behavior in a way that works.
So tell me a little bit more about that class. And so what were some of the specific behaviors? And then on top of that, what did you do exactly to kind of go from being in the closet, ready to lose it, actually probably losing it, right?
Oh yeah, it was like
To you're in the process of losing it to all of a sudden turning around. What was the steps? And by the way, as you say this, I'm noticing my book covers are not straight and it's driving me crazy. So I'm
oh,
gonna listen to you, but I'm gonna fix them at the same time. All right.
yeah,
My OCD is taking over.
no worries. Yeah, so what I was focusing on at the beginning was like I said, I'm failing. And also I had this like internal narrative that the kids were doing it to me, right? Like they wanted to be difficult, they were manipulating me, they were doing it because they wanted to. And a lot of my thoughts were like, how do I stop that child from doing that behavior? So,
I knew that was gonna happen too. I'm sorry, it's so rude.
it's all right, no worries.
I'm just gonna let it go.
Just that one looks pretty straight.
I'm
So
just gonna leave that. Okay. So how did you say that again?
yeah, so I was really approaching my class as the kids are doing this to me on purpose,
Got it.
right? Like they want to be manipulative, they are attention seeking, they are being defiant because they want to. And I was taking it really personally. Like I said, I thought I was failing. So a big change for me was learning to not take it personally,
Yeah, it's
right? Like
hard.
it really had nothing to do with me. But I needed to really do that internal work myself and realize that they weren't doing it on purpose. And ultimately, I learned all behavior is communication, right? So
No doubt.
I know that you preach that a lot. So I really had to shift from like focusing on the behavior itself and saying like, how do I stop the student from doing X? And moving into why is that behavior happening? Because all of these interventions that are out there, and I find this a lot being a general education teacher, they're all focusing on stopping the behavior,
Right.
but that only works on the surface, right? So you can stop a behavior from happening, but
Right.
it's going to pop back up if
It's
you
like
don't really do the
right.
work to figure out why it's happening and
Yeah.
fix that why.
It's like mowing the lawn, right? Like I mean, you can cut the lawn and you can make it look nice for a short amount of time, but it continues to grow back. So where did you find those issues were? What was the root sort of driving cause of the behavior, and then how did you go about trying to fix / solve that?
Yeah, so I learned how to find the function of a behavior. So four main functions, right? Like attention seeking, sensory stimulation, escape of something, and
Mm,
access to tangibles or an activity. And really, you can break those down and really just focus on two. Like their kids are either trying to access something or avoid something. So I mean, it was a lot of data taking, which like general education teachers are usually like, I don't have time for this. But I figured out how to do it in an easy way. And then I could look at what was happening and find patterns and figure out, okay, this student is really trying to, I don't like saying access attention. So this student is really trying to access connection with me.
mhm.
So how do I front load that connection, and B, teach them a more appropriate way to ask for the attention or to get the attention. And then C, how do I reinforce when they use those skills that I taught them? So that was really like the light bulb moment for me.
How do you do that though? Like, and by the way, so I've heard a lot of people say that, right? Connection seeking over attention seeking, which I'm kind of fine either way. I think people in general like attention, right? I
Yeah,
like attention, right? I think a lot of us do. So I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with that. But so what specifics did you do to kind of figure that out?
to figure out the function.
Yes.
Yeah, so I have just a really simple way that I do it. I just take a Post-it and I split it into half. And on one side, I write the behavior as soon as I see it, right?
So
So a
for
Post-it,
example,
yep.
you'll
So
give
for
me an example.
example,
Yeah.
hitting me, right? So I would write that, and then in that moment, I write what happened right before.
Mm,
Because if you try to think about it later, you don't remember what happened before, or you think what happened before didn't have anything to do with it.
right.
So, for example, what happened before, I was talking with another student, right? And then I write how I responded to the child. And once you have like that entire
So
post,
what can you take me through that? Like what does that look like? How do I respond to the child? I was short, I was not focused. Like, are you looking for the specific things you did, the things you did wrong? Like what exactly are you
so
writing?
I'm not evaluating it at all. I'm just writing what I did. So, for example, I turned and I told the child, I'm busy right now, right? And then she didn't stop because I'm not filling that attention bucket for her. Or I turned and I had a conversation with that child and it stopped. Why did it stop? Because the function is attention. It
Mhm.
stopped because I was giving her the attention. So once you have that data for a while, a week, you can find these patterns and you can say, okay, I think this is the function, rather than just seeing a behavior once and saying, oh, the function is attention or the function is escape of work.
Right. Right. And I often think that there's more than one function, right? I think there's really five. Like I've broken it down to five sort of, I call it reasons kids misbehave, and
Mhm.
attention is at the top of the list slash connection, right? But there's two different kinds of attention. I call it attention kids, right? There's type A, which is the kid who I think you can often trace it back to home life, right? So a
Oh,
kid who
absolutely.
doesn't get very much attention at home, craving more of it. And then there's the opposite of that, right? There's the kid who gets so much attention at home, they don't know how to live without it, right?
Right.
Sort of your spoiled brat who comes to school and expects everything to be run around them.
Right.
Attention is the problem for both, but the solution is different, right? Because the first one needs more, the second one needs to learn how to live without it, you know?
Right.
So I think not only do we have to figure out the function, but within the function, we have to figure out, are there sort of different variants?
Yeah, absolutely. So that like you really need to know your child, right? Like you need to understand not only how they exist in school, but outside of school as well. So I think that is really important to think of it more of like a team effort. It's not just you existing on an island, but who else do they interact with in the school? And then also at home, getting the parents and not only parents, but families to come to the table and really talk about it is so important.
So what do you do then? So what are the specifics? So once you figure that out, right? Once you're like, okay, this kid's craving attention, right? Here's the pattern. Here's what they're looking for. What then? What are the actions that you then take, and how do you make sure you go about sort of filling their need, right? I do this because I always think of it like I'm putting hot sauce on top, right? Like I'm adding this whole big bunch of what you need, right to you. So
Yeah.
how do you find the spot to do that?
Yeah, so I think of it more like a bucket, like a bucket at the
Yeah,
beach,
that's
right?
good.
And it has holes in it because that's what they need. So it's really three parts. Like the first part is to be proactive and try to fill that bucket before it gets empty. So for example, for attention, like maybe you will spend a few minutes in the morning when your other kids are arriving, talking to that child about non-academic things, just about like their life, what's going on, things that you know that they like. So I have a student right now who really loves unicorns. So like we play with little unicorns in the morning. Then you have to teach them the skills that they're lacking. So how do they gain my attention in a more appropriate way? So maybe that's through a social story that outlines like the different ways that they can ask for my attention. Maybe it's that you teach them a silent signal, give me a little thumbs up when you want my attention instead of coming over and hitting me. And that stuff we all need to like practice every single day. You can't teach it once and expect like, okay, now it's working. So that's
Right.
kind of like in my analogy, like patching the holes in the bucket. And then the third is reinforcement. So when the student engages in the behavior that you taught them, reinforcing it, positively reinforcing it, being really specific. And that might look different for each kid. Like the little girl in my class right now, she earns these unicorn tokens. And then when she gets a certain number, she gets like her reward or a break or things like that. And that has to be really, I want to say like a quick interval at the beginning when the kids are learning the skill at first, because you want to make sure you're reinforcing them every time. And then you can pull back a little bit.
So how did you figure this out? Like, how did you come up with this? Like where did it come from for you to do this?
Yeah, I think it was a combination of a lot of different things. I started with all the Ross Green books. That was really like my turning point in my own work with not taking the behavior personally.
Yeah, it's so important.
I went to a lot of PD. I signed up for anything that I could, and went and just listened and took notes. I'm also a big conscious discipline person. So I don't use it like front to back of the book, but I pull things out that I think are important. Just listening to like podcasts and learning as much as I could. And it wasn't really one specific person or one specific book, but just kind of getting this knowledge all together.
So you teach kindergarten. Did you always want to be a kindergarten teacher? Because I think often kindergarten teachers are sort of born to teach kindergarten.
I actually, when I was little, so I wanted to teach since first grade. I wanted to be a fourth grade teacher. I absolutely loved my fourth grade teacher. I just wanted to be her. Then I student taught in first grade, and I was like, this is what I want to do. First grade all the way. But when I got hired, they didn't have any first grade openings, and I actually got the call that I was going to teach kindergarten, and I freaked out because I was like, oh my God, they're just going to play all day. Like I'm not going to be able to teach anything. I'm going to be a babysitter, right? I was like, I don't want to do this, but I wound up loving it. I wish there was more play, actually. So we are like super academic. It's really like how first grade used to be. So we are trying to integrate some more play. But yeah, this is my 10th year teaching kindergarten.
When you say you're super academic, though, like, I mean, why does it have to be that way?
So, I mean, we don't have much freedom, unfortunately, where I teach. So we get programs handed to us, and we are told, at 12:15, this is what you need to be teaching. So my team and I have spent the last, I'd say 5 years, really advocating for more developmental approaches to curriculum, not really getting a big box program and following it to the T, and really integrating more play, more social emotional learning, just meeting our kids where they are.
Yeah, I mean, I would struggle in an environment like that because I often don't know what I'm going to say or talk about until 3 minutes before I do a presentation, and sometimes I'm figuring it out as I'm going. Like, I think sometimes being over structured can get in your way because it can force you to not. It's like the mindset becomes be quiet, be quiet, be quiet because I have to teach
Hmm.
versus talk to me, talk to me, talk to me so I can learn about what you like so that I can teach you what within that, right? And I think sometimes we get caught up in sort of being over structured, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And it's not as engaging for the kids, right? If you're just like, no, we're
Totally.
learning this because we have to. I'm really fortunate that the direct admin at my school does give us that freedom, and he says, do what you need to do. But it's something we're trying to change from like the top down.
Yeah, no question. So you mentioned earlier not taking it personally, and I think that's one of the hardest things that there is. I think it's really really hard to not take it personally. So is there anything specifically that you do in the moment to remember like this isn't about me, this is about like all these other things going on in this kid's life and they're coming in and taking it out on me? And I believe, and I'll speak for myself, that most of us, I know I do this, I frequently in my life take out my biggest annoyances, aggravations, and frustrations on the people I actually love and care about the most. And and I think a lot of people do that, and I think kids do that as well, right? So it's sort of like, they for many kids, the place they should be allowed to unload is often the place that's causing their need to unload. You know what I mean? So the place they should be allowed to unload is the one who's causing the need to unload. And so what do, right? They immediately turn the other direction. It's like, well, I want to go unload over there. And it's like you're about to do it. And it's like you get blasted in the face. So what do you instinctively do? You turn the other direction, right? And
Yeah.
who's there? The teachers, right?
Mhm.
That's where the teachers are. We're the other direction from home. And so here they come, and it wasn't about you, but boom, right? You're in the path of that hurricane. And I think it's so much easier said than done.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when I say that I did all of that work, like it took years.
Yeah.
It wasn't like by the end of that tough school year, I was like, oh, it's not about me. I'm good. Like, yeah, I still work through it all the time. There are some behaviors that like really trigger me, and I really have to pause and check myself.
What are they? What are your triggered behaviors? We all
Um,
have them.
yeah. So destroying the room is a really big one for me. I like a switch flips, and I just like
Yeah.
I really have to talk myself down, and also destroying things that belong to my other kids.
Right.
That's really
So
hard.
so really hurting other people's property and
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah. So what do you think about consequences? Like, so are you do you do punishments? I mean, slash consequence, like, okay, I think there's a difference between consequences and punishments.
There is a
Like,
difference between them. Yeah.
you agree, right? And so, but I think a lot of people use them interchangeably. Like a lot of
Mhm.
people see them as the same thing, and I think they're different, right? I think in general, my definition is a punishment is designed to inflict misery,
Mhm.
right? That's the definition of a punishment, right? And I'm not judging this, right? Like I think there's a place in society for punishment, right? 25 years to life, that's punishment, right? But consequence should always be designed, I think, with the foundation being trying to make your life better, right?
Right. Yeah.
Trying to improve you versus make you worse.
Right. So I do agree. I think that people use that word interchangeably, and there's also people who believe that you need to come down with a punishment when a challenging behavior happens, right? But consequences, sometimes they don't even have to be designed. Sometimes they're just what happens. So, for example, if you have a student who is on like a token economy system, right? And they're not earning all their tokens, the natural consequences, they don't earn that break, right? They don't earn that reward. So you're not taking something away from them, you're not putting a punishment on them, but the consequence
It's
just
happening to them. Yeah.
naturally happens. So it doesn't have to be this like big thing that is other than what's
Right.
happening. I also,
What
the other thing that you said that's true is that you're trying to make someone better. So consequences also can't happen in a vacuum. Like when the student is calm and after the behavior happens, you need to debrief. You need to talk about it and you need to teach the skills that will stop it from happening again.
That's right.
Just piling on consequences or punishments,
That's right.
they're not going to change anything.
That's right. And I think on top of that is also like not just teaching what the kid could do wrong, but talking about what we could do wrong, right? Like power struggles are usually a two-way street. And it's easy to say you did this and you did that and you need to be better and you need to be paid more attention. You need to be more appropriate. And it's much harder to say, hey, I'm sorry. I was in a bad mood today. My buttons got pushed easily today. Sometimes I'm a lot like you, right? Sometimes I'm impulsive, kind of like someone else we know. Sometimes I'm rude. So, and I'll say to a kid, you ever say something and the minute you say it, you wish you could pull the words back and put them in your mouth, right? Kids like, yeah. And I'm like, me too. Like I'm the same, right? It's crazy how similar we are, right? And so now I've kind of diffused. I've got them on my side, right? Like one of my rules is you can't coach a person until the person believes you're their teammate first, right? You have to be their teammate before you could be their coach. And part of being a teammate is getting yourself on the same side as the kid.
Right, which is why relationship building is so important and why you can't pretend to like someone, right? You have to actually be on their side.
Have you ever tried? Sometimes you got to fake it though, don't you?
I think it could start as that.
Yes.
Right? But I mean, ultimately, I really do think that like once you get to know them, you'll find something that you like.
And there's always something anyway. Like there's always something anyway. I mean, you can view the kid as a defiant, disruptive pain in the you-know-what. Or you can say, wow, that kid's assertive. That kid's got a mind of his own. That kid's willing to stick up for himself. Like, I mean, you right, for the same exact behavior. It's a lot of times it's just all about how we look at it and how we frame it.
Right. Or you can say like, wow, like what did that student go through that is their response to it? And how do I become that safe person for them so they don't feel like they have to respond that way?
You don't have to say the name of the student or anything, but what's the most challenging sort of home life outside situation that you've ever encountered?
Yeah, I mean, I have a student who has experienced a lot of trauma, like abuse, and watching it happen to his family as well. And his response is aggression. Why? Because that's what he knows. That's what he sees. That's what happens to him at home. And so that's been really hard because, you feel for them.
How do you undo that though? Like, and what again, so you get that, what do you do?
Yeah. So I actually just had this conversation with a teacher yesterday. It's hard because we can only impact and change what we do in school, right? And we have them for 7 hours a day. So we can't change their home life as much as we want to. And that's hard to deal with. But it's taken, I mean, this is happening right now. It's taken almost half the year for that student to believe that I am safe for him. He can trust me. And even if that reaction does come out, I will not hate him, right? Like we can talk through it. I can tell him that it was not right, but I am still going to love and support him, even when aggression comes out. And it doesn't happen quickly. Like I said, it's taken probably half a year. And we've made some great progress now.
Yeah. I think it's one of the things I say in my workshops all the time is it's easy to be there in life for people when things are good, right? Like anybody can do that, right? It's 250 people show up for the wedding, right? How many of the same 250 show up when you get divorced? Like there's, you know what I mean? Like everybody likes the open bar, but it's like when things get tough and things go wrong, and I think what happens in general, a lot of people scatter. They kind of go and I'm one of these people in life, I don't like going with traffic anyway. Any time in life you see the masses doing something, I'm usually going the other way. And that's just because I want to see what everyone's running away from. Like, I'm just like, oh, what's so scary that everyone's going this way, where I'm like, well, let me go see what's so right. And I think when you get in that mindset of, everybody goes this way, but I go the other way, you're a leg up with a lot of kids because they see you different, right? They're like, well, so many of my teachers abandoned me or walked away from me or, put me in a room and made me stare at a wall for 45 minutes. And this lady, like, she came down and she pulled me out of ISS and she wanted to talk to me and she walked around the halls with me and asked me questions. And,
She's on my side.
yes, correct. And like, they see you different. And once they see you different, then you've got them hooked. And as a kid, like, I had to know as a kid myself, like I struggled in school, a lot. And I had to know as a kid that as a teacher, you cared more about me than you did about anything you were trying to teach me. And I often as a kid felt the opposite. I often felt the teacher cared more about the math than they did about me. It was like, be quiet, be quiet, be quiet. Why? Because I got to teach math versus let me hear about your world and your life and then weaving some of the math into that. And I think when we do that, right, when we make and I think it does sometimes have to be conscious, right? Like a conscious decision to say, I'm going to be there for this kid when he's at his worst. Or like one of my other things that I used to really try to work on, right, as the teacher was being respectful to disrespectful people, right? I mean, again, it's another one. It's easy to be respectful to respectful people. Like, who can do that, right? Everybody's respectful to respectful people. So the question is, can I be respectful to a disrespectful person? And what I learned is I needed to have disrespectful people around me to practice that, right? If nobody was ever disrespectful to me, then how can I practice maintaining my own composure, right, during those times?
Yeah, that used to be one of my big triggers. Like, the verbal aggression used to be a really big trigger for me, and I used to meet them at it and it would be a power struggle. And that's something that I really had to work through as well. And again, it goes back to it not being about me.
Right. And my number one rule is avoid power struggles at all costs. Power struggles are like landmines, right? Like if you step on it, you're going to blow off your foot. So I don't care what you got to do, avoid it. And I think personally, the easiest way to handle the verbal sort of aggression is to just agree with it. Like that was like, right. The easiest in baseball, right? A 90-mile-an-hour fastball is coming from the pitcher to the catcher. There's only one way to diffuse it, right? And that is to catch it. And sometimes when you catch it, you got to absorb a little bit of a shot, right? Like you get hit and you're like, whoa, like that hurt my hand a little bit, right? And I think that's sort of the same thing with behavior. Like I remember kids, Mr. Mendler, you're so stupid. And I'd be like, that's true. No, listen, buddy, I picked this profession for like 40 grand a year to be yelled at by you all day. Tell me how stupid I am because I wasn't sure I knew it on my own. And the kids just look at you like,
what they say.
Right.
And it's the same thing with meltdowns. Like you have to validate their feelings. Whatever they are saying in that moment, that's their truth. You're not going to talk them out of it. So validate it and then you can move on.
Ride with it. That's right. That's right. It's sort of like the wave is coming at you, right? Like the wave is coming at you. And what I think a lot of teachers do is they try to sort of swim into the wave, right? And instead of swimming in, hop on top of it and just kind of ride it wherever it goes, right? Like allow it to guide you, right? Versus going into it and battling with kids. But again, it's hard because I think so many people are so focused on what they are supposed to teach, right? In education, there's two things that live at the same time. And I see this right now more than ever, right? There's that thing called what I'm supposed to teach, which comes from everybody but me. It's so bizarre, right? Really, if you think about it, it comes from everybody but us, right? It comes from administrators. It comes from people at the state. I don't even know who it comes from half the time. What I know is most teachers don't have a say in it, right? But it's a real thing. And then there's this other thing called what kids need to learn. Right.
That's one of my favorite quotes is what kids need to learn is not always on the lesson plan.
Correct. And like, so I think teaching is at its easiest when those two things line up, right? When what I'm supposed to teach is also what kids need to learn, which sometimes it is, right?
But very rarely happens.
Very rarely. And right now, like with the pandemic and with all this craziness in the world, what I'm supposed to teach is in New York and what the kids need to learn is in LA. And the teachers are getting caught in Iowa, right? Getting pulled in both directions. And I think anytime you feel that pull of but I'm supposed to do this. I know, but they need to learn that. But I'm supposed to teach them 3 times 3. I know, but they don't know how to say please and thank you, right? Supposed to need. Always go with what they need over what you're supposed to. It's sort of my rule. And I trust that by giving them that, it will lead me back to where I'm supposed to be.
And I tell my kids that sometimes, right? Like recently we're in the middle of a math lesson and that's not what they needed. I could tell by their body language, by the things that they were doing. And I told them, like, guys, I know I have to teach this right now. I'm going to stop. And instead of that, we're going to talk about this. And it was like a social emotional lesson, spur of the moment. But
do you have a specific? Do you have a specific that you did that with?
Yeah. So most everyone, not everyone, on the carpet were like just getting at it with each other. Just they were using what I taught them, but like overusing it, right? Like, I don't like that, please stop. I don't like that, please stop. And just like back and forth. And we really had to just stop and talk about like problem size, right? Like, what is a no deal right now? It's not a problem. What's a little deal? What's a big deal? And how your reactions needed to match the size of the problem, right? Like if someone is sitting there and like tapping their legs, that's probably a no deal. Like, you don't have to get involved. It might be annoying to you, but you don't have to get involved. So you can just let it go. If someone's like sitting there and hitting you, that's a big deal. That's when you need to tell them to stop and then come and get an adult. So just trying to like give them ways to advocate for themselves, but you don't have to over advocate, right?
Yeah, I love it.
Of everyone.
Yeah.
And we couldn't move on with our math lesson until we talked about that and learned it. And then, the math was still there the next day.
That's right. And I think that's a really important thing. Like the back to what I said earlier, right? What I'm supposed to teach is always going to be there, right? It's sort of like the canned stuff in the grocery store. It doesn't go bad, right? So the good news is you can walk away from it, right? You can leave it there. You can let it sit for a while and you could go attend to all these other things, right? And then when these other things are good to go, you could just pick that back up, right? And continue to go on with it.
That's important that you say like when they're good to go, because otherwise you're just teaching and teaching and teaching and teaching to no one, because they have all of these skills that need to be developed first. So you need to address that before you can move forward. And that's a lot of what we have to say when we're advocating for what we're teaching our students is they're not ready for that yet. Like, yeah, we'll get there and we'll probably get there faster in the end if we meet them where they are now.
Right. That's right. Well, I think the content, so to speak, right? The content is like, I like to think of a house, right? And the content is the bathroom, it's the bedroom, it's the kitchen, right? It's not the foundation.
Right.
It's not the foundation. Like, the foundation is connection. The foundation is, right, instead of stop talking, it's let me sit and hear what you're talking about. Yep. Right? What are you interested in? And all the while, keeping an eye, right? Here's how I'm envisioning in my mind, right? Like, there's sort of two islands at the same time. Teachers on their own island over here with their content, right? And the kids on their island over here. And the teacher's often trying to get the kid to come over to their island, right? So like, I'm on mine, right? I'm in my classroom. This is my world. This is my island. You come in, right? You come over here and learn. But there's kids, a lot of kids now, they're like, I don't want to come over there. I'm not coming over there. Right. I'm not coming over. You can't make me come over. I'm not coming over. And that's where a lot of people get stuck. And so what I always say to teachers is, and if you ever feel that, just abandon your own island and dive over to theirs. Like, dive in the ocean and swim over. Be like, hi, I'm here today, right? Like, I'm here. And what are you all doing? What are you talking about? What are you interested in? All the while, keep one of your eyes, like half of one of your eyes, back on your island. And the what you're looking for is, now you're on theirs, you're looking to see, what can I grab? What do I have over there that's really good, that's really cool? Because I have cool stuff on my island too, right? And like, I'm going to try to grab something, but I'm not going to try to get you to come here. I'm just going to bring it over to your island. And I'm going to figure out, like, I'm going to listen to you and I'm going to figure out, how can I just throw in a little addition? How can I throw in what a subject and a verb is into your world? And
into things that they care about and their interests and the things that they're talking about already. Like, they don't need to be two separate things.
Correct. Correct. I don't want them to be separate things. It's easier if they're not to me. I mean, they can be, but it's easier if they're not. And I was working in a school in Pittsburgh last week, and there was a kid who was sleeping, right? So sleeping, legit sleeping, like sound asleep. And so I said to the teachers, there was 3 teachers, and I said to them, I said, is there anything that keeps him awake? Like anything? Is there anything? And they said, yes, YouTube videos. They're like, when he's watching YouTube, right? He will transfix on YouTube and it'll play over and over, and the next video will play and he won't fall asleep. So I said, okay, great. Like, what does he watch? What videos does he watch? So the first 2 teachers immediately said, I don't know. I don't even know what he watches. I don't know. Like, almost annoyed, right?
Mhm.
The third teacher says, wait. I know what he watches. He loves, and she mentions animation and animals, which would, by the way, I was very pleasantly surprised, because I'm like you're always thinking like with porn or like what inappropriate thing is like going to come up, right? But it was like this actually good stuff, right? And so then I said to the third teacher, the one who knew that, I said, tell me more about the videos. Tell me more about the specific. And she said, well, I haven't really done that. Like, I know what he likes, but I haven't done enough to. And I was like, okay. And I said to the 3 of them, you 2 haven't even looked at his island, right? You haven't even looked, right? You've looked, you put your toe in, but that's about it. And what I'm saying is, you gotta go there, like go over there to play, right? And like hang out and like sit with them and be like, show me the videos. I need to know. I'm desperate to know what is so incredible about these videos that you are willing to sleep through everything that I'm teaching, right? Why are these so great? What is happening in these videos? And then use the video. Like, look at YouTube, right? YouTube's fascinating right now. I mean, there's people making millions of dollars on YouTube. You have to have a thumbnail and you have to have a caption, and a caption has an adjective in it, right? And then you have to write a description of the video, and you have to know how to write sentences to do a description, right?
Yeah.
Oh, all of a sudden, instead of put your YouTube away or turn off your computer, it's, let me bring you my ELA. I got some ELA over here. You got some YouTube over there. Let me bring some ELA over to your YouTube. And next thing you know, you got the kid interested, at least better chance, because it's connecting directly to what they like in that moment. And there's no better way to get a kid hooked.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I did something similar with Legos at the beginning of the year. I had a pretty challenging kid, and all he wanted to do all day was play Legos. I mean, we weren't doing much like academic work at the beginning. He didn't want to play the games. He didn't want to do any of the community building. He would just scream no and run to the Legos. And I mean, I know teachers are always saying, like, we don't have time, we don't have time. But just make 5 minutes. I just sat down on the floor with him and just played Legos. And just making that connection, then like you said, everything that we did, math. Okay, let's use Legos. Let's add 3 Legos and 2 Legos. Oh, you have 6 Legos. How many more Legos do you need if you want to make 10? You know, just integrating it all together. And just when they realize that you took the minute out to care about what they liked, that's the first step. You know,
That's
you
right.
don't have to spend hours and hours, but just show them that you care and that you're interested and that you're validating what they like. And that's really the building blocks of relationship.
That's right. And there's so many places you could go with that, right? You can say, and by the way, I want to show you this really cool video of Legoland that they have in Orlando. And you can go there with your family, and they have a hotel and they have all the Legos, and they charge you, and by the way, to stay there. And you can even get more advanced with the math, right?
Right.
So how much does it cost to stay there for one night, right? And how much, are they making all that money, or do they have to pay their employee, right? Again, I'm going there. I'm coming over to you, right? And I think that's the foundation of it. And you said something interesting, which I hear a lot, right? I don't have time for this. And what I always say back is, first of all, I don't like excuses. So that's number one. I don't like them from my students, which means I definitely don't like them from my colleagues. But the same people saying they don't have time are often the same people spending a lot of time writing referrals, right? And so here's my thing. If you don't have time to spend 2 minutes connecting with a kid, then you don't have time to spend 2 minutes writing a referral, right?
Right. And the more time you spend building the relationship, the less time you have to spend dealing with the behavior.
Correct.
So if you
It's
can
an investment
there, then you don't have to spend as much time dealing with the behavior later on.
No doubt, no doubt. See it as an investment, right? It's an investment. Look, I'm 46 years old, right? I have 3 kids. I have 2 dogs. I have a wife. Literally, I'm not exaggerating. I'm guessing you could probably, you're with me on this. Every single dollar in my life that I earn right
Mhm.
now could easily go right back out.
Right.
It could. Like, I guarantee, like, and you would say, oh yeah, that's legit. That's legit. That's legit. But I still every month take this much and I put it away. Why? Because I sacrifice. They tell me, because if you do that over and over and over, it doesn't have to be a lot. That's the good news, right?
Mm-hmm.
It could be, what do they say? Like a cup of coffee a day, right? And you just put it away, put it away, put it away, put it away. Wait till you get to 5 years. Wait till you get to 10 years. Your mind is going to be blown at how much progress you made by doing this much every single time. And that's how I see it with a lot of those kids. I used to consciously spend 2 minutes a day, right? So I love the 2-minute intervention, which is 2 minutes a day for 10 consecutive days. And all you're doing is connecting, right? Finding 2 minutes in that day where I could pull a kid out of somewhere else. And I used to walk around the halls with them, and I would set ground rules before we walk. So rule number 1 was, you're allowed to ask me anything that you want to know about me. Nothing's off limits, anything in the whole world. Rule number 2 is, I'm allowed to ask you anything I want to know about you. Rule number 3, neither one of us are required to answer, right? So if I ask you a question, you don't want to answer it, just say, Mr. Mendler, I don't feel comfortable answering that. And I'll say, no problem. Rule number 4 was, and this was the most important rule, neither one of us are allowed to get mad at the other person for asking, okay? Because sometimes I ask questions, like I'll be like, how was your Christmas?
Yeah.
And boom, right? A kid explodes. And I'm like, I didn't mean for that, right? So no getting mad. And then rule number 5, and this one only pertained to me, it didn't pertain to the kid. Rule number 5 was that I would always promise them that I won't talk about school, anything else. And then we would go. And what people say, well, what's 2 minutes really going to do? And I'm like, but it's not 2 minutes. It's 2 minutes today times 5 days this week. That's 10 minutes this week. Yeah. If I do that the whole month, that's 40 minutes in a month. Right? Times 10 months in a year, that's 400 minutes in a year you're going to spend extra with a kid. That kid will be eaten out of the palm of your hand.
That's a lot. I also think it's like really important to schedule that, because like sometimes I say like, oh yeah, I'm going to check in with that kid tomorrow. If it's not scheduled, it doesn't happen for me. So like you schedule, okay, when they're at specials, we'll take the first 2 minutes and we'll do that hallway walk, making sure that it actually gets done.
No doubt. And timing it, because the other thing is, I don't know if you've actually ever timed 2 minutes, but like sometimes when you're talking to a really difficult kid, you think 2 minutes it was, but it was actually like 20 seconds or 30 seconds. Like literally it wasn't 2 minutes. And I actually have to sometimes time it. So I'm like, whoa, I know what 2 minutes really feels like. It's a long time to talk to somebody that's not really interested in talking to you.
Yeah, that's a good idea, because then you make sure that you invest that time.
No question.
Then, okay, we answered that one question, go back.
No question. So you said first grade is when you knew you wanted to be a teacher? Yeah. So I'm going to stereotype, but you look like a person who was like a perfect angel in school.
I was, yes.
You were. But you must have struggles. So what I mean, most people do. Like, are there any obstacles that you've had to overcome in your life to get where you are?
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone does. I am like a super introvert, right? So I mean, my first grade teacher asked my mom, is she mute? Like, cause I did not talk at school, but at home I didn't shut up. So like, and that's been a really big thing, especially in teaching. Like I remember interviewing for my job. I was so worried. I had to do a sample lesson in 4th grade class, and I'm 5 feet tall. So like, I was really worried about that. Just interviewing and teaching those kids who I didn't know anything about, being an introvert is really hard to step out of your comfort zone in that way. And even now, once I've been in my job for 10 years, the last few years I've been trying to take more leadership opportunities, and that's really forced me to step out of my comfort zone. And it's not always, well, it's never comfortable to do. I am finding that after I do it, I'm proud of myself, and I'm happy that I did it when I see the results, but
Yeah,
it's
always.
always a battle, and I find I can show up for kids really well, but when it's adults, like, I don't do so well. So
Yeah, but I love that. I love that sort of thing because there's nothing better in the entire world than the feeling of accomplishment. And like if like I don't really want to do things anymore in my life if I can't get that feeling. You know what I mean? Like if the feeling of accomplishment doesn't come at the end of an activity, then I don't usually want to do that activity. That's sort of my rule. And what I love about uncomfortable things and pushing yourself through hard things is that it does exactly that, right? You get done, right? You do a good workout early in the morning and you got 20 hours in the day that you feel like a beast, right? You just
right,
walk around, you're like, I got my workout in this morning, and I'm ready to go. And you feel, and like, so there's such a great feeling on the other side of discomfort, which is why I think it's the appetizer for growth, right? Discomfort is sort of always the foundation in life for growing and getting better. And that's a good rule to teach kids. When kids are uncomfortable and frustrated and annoyed, it's good to say to them, hey, right now you're uncomfortable. And listen, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that because
right,
discomfort's going to make you better.
right. And that's the big thing with mistakes that I try to teach my kindergartners, right? Like, they're not comfortable. They don't make you feel good, but you're not going to grow and learn unless you make mistakes.
No question. Gina, these 45-minute blocks go quickly. Is there anything that you would like to just say or leave everybody with? You have great teeth, by the way.
Oh, well,
Excellent smile. Yes.
thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the biggest thing that changed me was just it's a quote from Ross Green, like one of my favorites, and it's just kids do well if they can. And that really,
Mm.
I have it posted on my wall, I have it posted in my classroom. It's just something like you asked before, how do you not let it bother you? And just reminding yourself about that every day, and especially in tough situations, I
Yeah.
think that's really helped me a lot.
Yeah, I think it's important to remember that it's teaching's a roller coaster, right? It's a roller coaster ride, and it's filled with ups and downs and loops and corkscrews and tunnels and dips in the tunnel that you didn't see coming, and then it's over. Like it's this fast, intense, crazy ride, and then right, it kind of stops,
Yeah,
like and that's what it is. And so if you learn to enjoy the ride, right? Like instead of like, don't get too caught up in the ups or the downs, right? Even when things are really good, I think it's important to not get too excited and too up because
you
it's
don't know what's
always temporary.
Mhm.
It's always temporary. It's always, oh, you're going up, but then right, coming down, and trying to maintain that even keel is so important. Well,
Yeah.
listen, it was a pleasure. How can people find you if they want to stay in touch? I know
Yeah.
you got a pretty good Instagram following.
I try. Yeah, I'm teaching with heart on Instagram.
Teaching with Heart. It's great. It's a good handle.
Yeah, it's just really my philosophy. Like we said, don't worry about what you have to teach, but meet the kids where they are. And my website, it's teachingwheart.com. They can find me there too for blogs and everything.
Very good. All right. Well, I appreciate it. It was good seeing you. Everybody else, don't forget to rate, review, subscribe, download. Hope you all enjoyed. I'll be back with you same time in 2 weeks. Until then, I say peace. We're out of here. Bye, everybody.